Hi, good evening, and welcome to the presentation from Information Management Group, IMGROUP. I'm Suranjan Som. I'm a senior architect with the company. Started off my career with a big five firm in the area of data analytics. Been with data for most of my career, generating value out of data for large organizations. And having stayed with IMGROUP for almost 10 years now, I've been involved in building and architecting some of the largest very complicated systems or solutions to complicated systems, including ones like building an audience analytics platform for a couple of the largest private broadcasters in the UK, and risk analytics platforms for probably top 5 of the largest investment banks in the world. That's myself.
Hello there, I'm David Marriage. I trained with KPMG. Then I moved to Centrica, where I helped buy the power station fleet. I moved into looking after all of the purchases of gas, power and transportation, which is quite a big gas bill for the UK. I then moved into investor relations there, so looking after the relationship with the city, so looking at so I sort of moved from creating data to using data from an investor and analyst and board perspective. Then I joined Man Group, where I was for 5 years as head of group performance management. I created the analytics cube there, bringing together client, product and finance data to create an analysis cube that enabled us to identify the profitability of different areas of the business. And for the last 8 months, I've been head of advisory at IMGROUP, where our focus is working out how to get value from information and treat data as an organisational asset.
And of course, this is nothing new to you. You've all treated data as an organisational asset. We all know that, except for the fact that in the last 5 to 10 years, you'll all agree that data itself has changed significantly in terms of size, shape, volume, complexity. Again, we don't want to go through that spiel over and over again, but some of the more obvious questions that we always ask when we're starting off on any data management program or any initiative to bring in data or information together within an organization on a uniform platform, the usual whys and wherefores. We'll try and kind of go through those in a slightly informal manner, keeping a level of entertainment and education at the same time. Hopefully you'll be entertained and educated and enjoy the presentation.
We'll see how that goes. Okay, so in terms of why, we should have had an arrow on the eyebrow, but just in terms of a show of hands, in your current jobs back at the office, who finds customer data important? 6? Oh no, more? Yeah, okay. Who's got the information they need to do their jobs in customer? 2. Okay, good. In terms of risk and regulation, I don't know whether anyone noticed, but there's been slight increase in the regulation requirements for the banks. In terms of the, needing the information for your jobs, again, if we could just have a quick show of hands. Smaller number. Do you all have the information you need? 1 or 2 are convinced. That's good. That's a good start. And we could go through all of these really and ask the same question. And probably for the most part, a large portion of you will need it, and less than half of you will have the information that you need to do your jobs. And actually, the other thing to think about is not just having these things individually, it's being able to bring all these things together to create value. So what we're finding more and more across our clients, which include most of the investment banks, a lot of asset managers, and across media and retail, is there is a much bigger desire to bring all of this information together to create real value. So in the past, we had a lot of departments going off and doing their own thing around marketing or customer, another team going off and doing risk and regulation. But actually more and more people want to bring that information together to be able to look at this in lots of different ways.
Yeah, I mean, we could almost kind of summarize that statement in 3 sentences. The reason why you would want data today, and also kind of in a conjoined format today, is of course, you want your organization to perform better, you want to make more money, reduce costs, etc. Now that's kind of an obvious headline, we all know. With the advent of social information, external data coming in, you probably want to merge that data, superimpose that information on top of your customer information, transaction patterns, etc. and look at newer markets, newer products, expand your business and identify trends and patterns so that you could expand what you're doing today. And thirdly, and probably last but not the least, today it's almost your responsibility to know what's going on in the organization. You know, the days are gone when you could say, that was not my responsibility, or I took that decision just on gut feel. If you're a CEO of an organization, it's basically your responsibility to know everything that's going on. Otherwise, as we've seen in the recent past, you could potentially even go to jail. So that's probably, probably a slide which is slightly drier than a vodka martini this evening. But what we're basically trying to say is, yes, we're saying it's all about data. It's all about bringing information data together. And again, something probably all of you know, but data, when we're talking about data, most of you will probably associate data with a lot of the structured numerical information that's coming out of databases, applications, and the likes. But what we're increasingly seeing with most of our customers today is information that's coming in not just from databases, it's coming in from unstructured contents, from documents, from PDF files, from emails. There's a lot of information captured in these unstructured documents which you can leverage within your organization. And of course, external data. Now, I mean, there's no point in me getting started on social data, social media, Facebook posts and Twitter feeds and likes and all of it. But at the end of the day, what is the like if you can't link it to your increase in revenue? What is a post or a review if you can't link it back to your increase in market share? And that's the glue which data gives you to bring all this together to, at the end of the day, give you a better return on investment on the investments that you're making.
So start looking at when, historically, 5-10 years ago, there'd be an annual process of reporting to the market. That became half yearly, then it became quarterly. Finance always pretty much reported monthly. And what we're seeing more and more is a focus on daily, hourly, near real-time reporting across all sorts of data flows. And in terms of being able to bring that together with all the other information that's within an organization, that's becoming more seen as an imperative rather than a nice to have. And so when you're designing the data systems and reporting systems within your companies, it's key to think about, we've talked about why we're doing it, what we're doing, but also the frequency of the data that you need to look at and make sure that you're getting the information you need when you need it to make the right decisions.
And I think there's one key point associated with that. It's great to say that I want everything down to the minute, down to the second, but you've also got to remember everything comes with a cost. So while you can move over from overnight systems down to real-time information, and if you're the CEO of Walmart today, you might want to say, I want to see every transaction that's going through every till, everywhere, in every store in the world. But you've got to remember that comes with a cost. And I think on that point of cost, going over to the next slide, it's all about, in order to have all this information today, you don't necessarily actually have to build all of this from scratch. And again, most of you are probably already aware of that. But just a quick raise of hands, by the way. Anyone know where that is? Scotland. Yeah, absolutely. We'll probably give you a special prize at the end of the day. Okay. But talking about data now, so where can this data actually reside, and where can all these systems reside? Well, obviously, traditionally, we've all looked at in-premise systems or in-premise infrastructures and architectures. Now, which is great, and there are a number of organizations probably sitting in this evening out here as well, who still have quite a few valid reasons of keeping everything on premise. There's reasons around security, reasons around latency, but what we do see increasingly with a number of organizations, including a number of financial institutions, that a lot of it is actually moving off premise into the cloud. So in some cases, people are brave enough to put it on the public cloud, but rather increasingly, a lot of people are actually building private clouds of their own. A lot of financial services institutions, including stock exchanges, are actually collaborating with vendors to build private clouds that would serve financial services organizations, which is an interesting approach there. Another thing which we've seen a lot with the asset management firms out there is if you've got information that's not clearly identifiable and confidential, then it does make sense to push all the compute power onto the cloud, do all your heavy calculations, and get all the data back into the organization, because there is a fair amount of cost efficiency that you can achieve by doing that.
So who's going to help you do this? Let's see. Wait for it. It's exciting, isn't it? Is it going to work?
You probably try and identify as many villains as you can in the meantime.
Oh, there you go. Maybe I was pressing the wrong button. Easily done. Okay, so there's a number of ways you can do this. Obviously, you can have an internal team. I suppose, let me just take a step back. Whichever teams you decide to use and however you need to decide to do this, it's key that they know what they're doing. They can demonstrate they've done this before, and they've got the appropriate tools and capabilities available to them to make sure it's a success. So if you are going to use an internal team, make sure they're appropriately trained. You've got the right people in those teams. They've got experience of doing it in your industry, ideally, and they're aware of all the new technologies that are available to them. Because quite often, internal teams will have grown with the organisation. They won't have seen all the things that are going on in the market. They're very much blinkered by what they've already seen in their organisation, and being able to take a big step back and say we're going to do this differently is often difficult. So it might be that you need to get some new people in, or get somebody in to come and just give them an overview of what's available in the market. Obviously that's true of contractors as well, and contractors can bolster your teams to bring in skill sets from elsewhere that you haven't got internally. Consultancies obviously can provide process and have obviously and often got huge amounts of experience in various industries, but make sure you pick one that understands your industry and has got demonstrable experience that they can bring to bear on your problem. And obviously vendors have a huge amount of information and capability that they can bring to bear on the issues that you have, so it's always worth talking to a number of vendors and understanding what they can bring to the problem. So over to Hal.
So that's how's probably the most important question of the day, and again, as we've already kind of iterated, that it's not just about technology. Technology is probably just a small piece of the puzzle. It's bringing together domain expertise, technology, process knowledge, and of course the right set of people to do this correctly the first time around. Now again,
I can do this bit.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah.
Okay, so again, it's about making sure that whatever you do, you've got a clear process of how you're going to do this, making sure there's a way of knowing that you're going to get to the right result in the end, and that's about being able to identify the answers to all of those questions from the outset, essentially, and having a clear process that you can bring to bear on the problem.
And of course, technology. Now, as I said, the slide I showed you earlier on, I thought that was the driest one. This is probably the driest one of the evening. I won't go into any detail around technology right now, because I know this is the third session. There's been a number of wines that have gone down already, so it's probably not the right time. But I would like to kind of mention just the big data element here. Yes, big data is a big buzzword, a big hype around big data. But what we see today as what the technology landscape is going to look like in the next 5 years is big data and relational data quite necessarily will quite peacefully coexist for at least quite some time. The reason being they both do things that are quite well within its own domain, and the magic would be to kind of identify solutions that allow you to kind of interoperate between these two paradigms, and kind of we're not fortune tellers. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. There's a lot of investment happening in the big data space, a lot of investment happening in the relational space as well. 5 years from now, which camp is going to win? Frankly speaking, we don't know. And the best approach to, if you're building an architecture for the next 5 to 10 years, which we're currently doing with a number of large investment banks, helping their architecture roadmaps out, you want to kind of hedge your bets across the two camps and build an architecture that allows you to operate across those two paradigms and move from one to the other. And then, of course, regardless of what you put underneath, have a business abstraction layer that takes away all the nastiness of technology from the business and provide you with information that you can act upon through, through analytics, through multiple platforms, through mobile devices, and of course through content management frameworks.
I suppose the last point to leave you with us is around another trend that we're seeing in the market is people moving away from using standard tools all the time for everything they do. What we've found with a number of our clients now is that historically they've used the big vendors' reporting tools, and they've limited their ability to visualize their data with the capabilities of the tool sets they're using, as opposed to enabling the visualization to represent the data. And what we've seen is as people have much higher quality interactions at home, online, with various visualizations and various ways of interacting with data, people are starting to expect it in the office. So these are some examples of visualizations that we've done recently, but it's more about making sure that the data fits with the visualization fits with the data as opposed to the other way around.
And of course, an obligatory kind of slide of logos. But basically, what we're trying to say here is that, if you look at the way we've laid it out on the screen, we've got a fair amount of experience across financial services, retail, CPG, general industries, and of course, specifically in the media and telecom space as well. And again, just to reiterate that, I'm kind of wearing a couple of cufflinks today, which says "been there, done that," which is a bit, condescending of me. But basically what we're trying to say is, as an organization, we've been around for the last 15 years or so, and we've built data management and information management systems for a large number of these organizations that you see on screen. So if you do have a problem, whether it's a big data problem or a big data problem, we should be able to help you out with that. That's us. So if you've got any questions, feel free to contact us or any of our colleagues sitting on each of the tables.
Our heads are actually the same size. It's confusing, that picture. Okay.
So we leave you with our question, which is, in terms of all those things that you saw on the slide, why, where, what, who, what's your burning question? I think that's probably a topic for discussion for the next 5 minutes. Thank you, David.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.